What is up, film fans, and welcome to my review of Dunkirk, the latest film by director Christopher Nolan. Now, before we get started, I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm a huge Nolan fan. I've loved every single one of his films, starting from Memento to the Dark Knight trilogy, Interstellar, Inception. I think they're all brilliant films. I've thoroughly enjoyed them all. So of course, I was very much looking forward to seeing Dunkirk. Now, that being said, Dunkirk is easily my least favorite Nolan film, hands down, and I'll go into why. But first, let me talk about what I liked about the film. The film is technically and visually amazing. If you're gonna go watch this film, you have to go watch it on the biggest screen possible, because the way Nolan frames his shots, the scope of the frames, the way the action is set, it deserves to be seen on the big screen if seen at all. And you'll just be blown away by all the visual mastery that Nolan brings to the table in this film. Also, I love the score. I love Hans Zimmer. I've loved him for decades now. He's made some very iconic film scores. And I don't think there's ever a quiet moment in this film where the score is not there in the background in some way. And the way the score just kind of creeps on you and builds up the intensity as the events in the film get tighter and tighter. The score just worked for me a lot. The music was a great complement to the film's storyline. So the score was excellent. The music, again, all technical aspects of the film were hands down brilliant. Now, here's where I find fault in the film. The film is set in World War II around the retreat of British and French soldiers from this beach in France. The Germans are closing in, they're bombing the hell out of them on the sandy beaches. The land troops are coming in, and there's about 400,000 troops that need to get the hell out of there, go back home and get safe. And the way Nolan tells a story, he intersects three different storylines and timelines to tell the story. And I had no problem with that. That, I thought, was actually an interesting way of telling the story. One of the stories focuses on a group of young British soldiers just trying to get off the beach. Another story involves a civilian boat owner who comes from England, and he heeds the call for help and he brings his boat over to the beach in Dunkirk to help bring some men back. And the third story revolves around Royal Air Force pilot trying to gun down these fighter ships also at Dunkirk. And the way he intersects these storylines, it actually worked for me. I found it intriguing, and I thought it was a very interesting way to present the storyline. But that being said, there are no characters I could really connect with or feel for in this film. And that was my biggest problem with the film. I just didn't feel a connection to anything that was going on. It's like Nolan really wanted to focus on the events of Dunkirk rather than the people. And that's a bold choice, because when I go to see a film, I want to be either entertained or educated or touched, not in that way, you know, emotionally. This film, I couldn't really make that connection to it. It was very cold, and there's not too much dialogue in it, which again, I have no problem with that. But just the overall effectiveness of those choices that Nolan made didn't really quite work for me this time around. And he gives each of those three story segments a title, and one of those segments has a title that would imply a certain story element to that segment, but it just kind of thrown in there for one brief scene and then kind of forgotten about. So I'm thinking, why did you title that segment the way you did when it was really pretty irrelevant in the long run as to what the title meant? So I didn't really think that was a effective execution of that particular storyline. And I've been harping on this on my reviews all year long, and it's characters. If you're gonna tell me a story, you need to engage the audience with it, whether it's via film, via a book, via TV, via a print media, or in person. Whenever someone's telling a story, the whole point is to engage the person listening to you or the person watching your story. And I just didn't feel that engagement with this film, which is the first time for me watching the Christopher Nolan film. Yeah, I see all these characters, some of them are doing heroic things, but I just didn't feel any connection with any of them. I didn't really care. I didn't really feel the stakes, to be honest. There was this huge German scare that was talked about a lot, but never really shown, except for some bombings here and there. And speaking of that, I mean, you can only watch a boat sink so many times, and Dunkirk, I think, has at least 4, maybe even 5 boats sinking. Soldiers go on a ship, the ship gets bombed. Soldiers go on a ship, the ship gets bombed. Soldiers on a ship, the ship gets bombed. It's just like, I get it already. Tell me something new with each ship going down. And that really wasn't done. It was the same occurrence over and over again, and I just didn't feel like it was going anywhere. I admire Nolan for his choices in this film. Obviously, it was a story that was close and dear to him, which is why he wanted to tell it in such a way, but the execution again was just not there. I was never really bored throughout the film, but it didn't really take me anywhere. At the end of the film, I didn't feel like I had really experienced anything phenomenal. Technically, the film is beautifully done, but overall, the characters are pretty much forgettable. The action is okay. There wasn't really no tension that I could feel personally throughout the film, so Dunkirk for me gets a 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching, everyone. Come back next week for yet another film review from MC on Film.